The Duke has seen the truth, and now, he's ready to burn it all down. A hidden world beneath the city, and a war that's about to begin. Welcome back to the Duke's Masked Bride.
As Edgar and Caleb rode into the heart of the red light district, the typical lively debauchery of the streets turned to hushed murmurs and wide-eyed stares. Word of the Duke's arrival spread like wildfire.
The moment he arrived, the entire district knew something was about to change.
Women quickly turned their backs, and drunken gamblers abandoned their dice mid-roll, scurrying away like rats evading a trap. Caleb let out a low whistle.
Well, if you wanted to make an entrance, you certainly succeeded.
Edgar ignored him, scanning the street until his gaze landed on a drunken man slumped against a barrel, half-conscious with a bottle dangling from his fingertips. Edgar swung off his horse in one fluid motion and strode forward. Before the drunk could react, Edgar snatched his arm and hauled him to his feet. The man yelped, his eyes snapping open.
Oi! What's the meaning of this?
I have a question. Edgar leaned forward. And you will answer it. The man tried to yank his arm away, but it was no use. Edgar was far too strong.
I ain't done nothing, I swear.
I don't give a shit about the things you've done. Edgar cut him off sharply. I'm looking for something. The drunk tried to catch his breath.
Oh, okay.
Edgar's gaze grew more menacing. I heard there's a criminal hideaway.
He's not here to wander. He already knows what he's looking for.
Get a new identity. Where is it? The man's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard.
Hideaway? I don't know what you're talking about.
Edgar's fingers tightened, digging into the other man's flesh. I don't believe you.
I swear to the Lord, I don't know nothing about no hideaway.
The man's voice pitched higher in panic, his wide eyes darting toward the shadows where others were watching. Edgar held his gaze for a long moment, searching for any sign of deceit. Then, with a disgusted scoff, he shoved the man backward. The drunkard stumbled and fell onto his backside, gasping for air. Caleb, still seated on his horse, arched a brow.
That was subtle.
Edgar dusted off his gloves. He was useless. He cast his gaze across the darkened streets, eyes narrowing. But someone here knows something, and I intend to find them. Edgar strode deeper into the red light district, Caleb now following behind him.
Edgar, this is gonna be like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Caleb muttered.
This could take forever.
I don't care how long it takes. Edgar scoffed. We're not leaving until we find that hideaway. A shadow shifted at the mouth of a narrow alley. A thin, wiry man stepped forward, his eyes darting nervously between Edgar and Caleb. His clothes were tattered, his face gaunt, and his fingers twitched like a man desperate for coin. He was a beggar.
You looking for something, Your Grace?
The man's voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. Edgar barely spared him a glance. I don't have time for games. The man licked his chapped lips.
No games, no tricks. I know what you seek. The place where those who wish to disappear go.
That made Edgar stop. He turned his head slightly, his gaze sharp. Speak. The man took a cautious step forward.
It's called the Hollow.
This isn't just a hideout. It's an entire underground system.
Brewery in the fermentation cellars. There, men can lose themselves, or be lost forever.
He hesitated, eyeing Edgar expectantly.
Now, that's not easy knowledge to come by. Surely a duke like yourself could spare a coin for...
Edgar didn't wait for him to finish. With a single powerful shove, he sent the man stumbling back into the alleyway. The beggar yelped, catching himself against the grimy wall.
Oi, what the hell? I told you what you wanted.
Edgar adjusted his gloves and strode past without another word. Caleb, who had watched the exchange with mild amusement, shook his head.
You really aren't the generous type, are ya?
If he's desperate for coin, he can sell his secrets to someone else. Edgar's tone was clipped as he stepped into the next street, his eyes scanning for the entrance to the hollow. He would find it. And when he did, Kate would have nowhere left to run. The beggar groaned as he steadied himself against the damp brick wall, still reeling from the Duke's shove. He wiped at his nose, scowling.
Bloody bastard. Can't even spare a coin.
The beggar stiffened as a slow, deliberate clap echoed from the darkness behind him. His blood ran cold when he heard the familiar sharp snap of a fan closing.
Well done,
A smooth voice crooned.
Truly, I am in awe of your survival instincts.
The beggar whirled around, his throat tightening as a woman stepped into the dim glow of a nearby lantern. Milady, the beggar stammered, taking a step back. I didn't mean nothing by it, truly. It was just... The woman clicked her tongue.
You didn't mean anything by it? Oh, how fortunate. Because surely telling the Duke about the hollow wasn't at all a grave mistake.
She took a graceful step forward, her fan flicking open. The beggar swallowed hard.
I wasn't thinking. He cornered me, demanded answers. What was I supposed to do?
Oh, I don't know.
The woman sighed, tapping her fan against her chin as if in thought.
Perhaps keep your mouth shut, as any sensible man in your position would have done?
The beggar's knees nearly buckled.
Please, I didn't mean no harm. It's just... There's nobles crawling all over the district these days, sniffing around where they don't belong. The Duke was bound to find out one way or another.
The woman tilted her head.
Perhaps. But because of you, he found out much sooner than he should have.
Her voice turned soft, almost pitying.
And that, dear boy, is something I simply cannot allow.
Before the beggar could react, the fan snapped shut, and in a flash, the woman drove the hidden blade into his gut.
And just like that, anyone who talks is silenced.
The beggar let out a choked gasp, eyes widening in shock as he crumpled against the alley wall. His fingers scrabbled uselessly at the wound, his breath coming in ragged, shallow gasps. He tried to speak, to beg, but all that came out was a sickening gurgle. The woman sighed, crouching down as she wiped a stray splatter of blood off her glove.
You street rats always make such a mess.
She rose gracefully, stepping over the dying man without a second glance.
But you were right about one thing. There are too many royals crowding our streets. As she disappeared back into the shadows, she flicked open her fan once more. It's high time I take back control.
Meanwhile, unaware of the mess they had left in their wake, Caleb and Edgar walked up to the old brewery, its windows boarded up. To any ordinary onlooker, it was nothing more than another abandoned ruin. Caleb exhaled sharply.
This is it?
Edgar nodded, gripping the hilt of his sword.
Looks like it.
Caleb scoffed, kicking a loose stone across the ground.
For a so-called criminal haven, it doesn't look like much.
Edgar didn't reply. Instead, he stepped forward, running his fingers along the warped wood of the brewery's entrance. He pressed against the door. It didn't budge. Caleb raised an eyebrow.
Locked?
Edgar studied the structure, his mind racing. If this truly was the Hollow, there had to be a way in.
Let's see if there's an open window.
Edgar suggested.
Maybe a way in through the back?
Caleb nodded, stepping toward a boarded-up window, his fingers running along the splintered edges. But before he could pry at the gaps, something flickered in the corner of his eye. From the shadows of the brewery's collapsed awning, a figure darted backward, barely visible in the dim light. A wiry man dressed in ragged clothes, his eyes wide with alarm. Caleb looked up.
It's a lookout.
The moment their gazes locked, the man bolted toward the side of the building.
Looks like we have company.
Edgar muttered as he reached for his sword, but Caleb beat him to it. With a quick surge forward, he caught the man by the back of his coat, yanking him off balance. The lookout let out a startled yelp, twisting violently in Caleb's grip.
Get your hands off me.
He spat, writhing in Caleb's grip.
You don't know who you're messing with.
Caleb had no patience for threats. He tightened his hold and drove a fist into the man's gut. The lookout let out a wheezing gasp, doubling over in pain. But he was persistent. With sheer desperation, he tried to claw at Caleb's face, twisting his body in an attempt to break free. Edgar stepped in, swift and merciless. With one precise motion, he grabbed the man's arm and wrenched it behind his back, forcing him onto his knees.
Who's inside?
Edgar asked. The man coughed, sucking in a ragged breath.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Caleb let out a sharp exhale.
Wrong answer.
He struck the lookout again, this time with an elbow to the side of the head. The man's body slumped, his resistance fading. Edgar
But
knelt
what they are
beside
about
him,
to find
lowering
is
his
far
voice.
worse than they imagined.
Whoever it was, you were about to warn them. That tells me all I need to know.
The lookout groaned, swaying slightly before his eyes rolled back. He crumpled to the ground, knocked out cold. Caleb flexed his fingers, rolling his shoulder.
Damn. That hurt more than I thought.
Edgar nudged the unconscious man with the tip of his boot, then glanced up at Caleb.
He was about to sound the alarm.
Caleb scoffed, shaking out his hand.
Yeah, well, now he's dreaming about a better life.
Edgar rolled his eyes.
Still, it was a close call. Too close a call. We need to be more wary of our surroundings.
Caleb sighed.
Sir, yes, sir.
Edgar cast one last look at the fallen lookout before shifting his focus to the entrance ahead. They had bought themselves time, but not much. The Hollow was waiting for them. Edgar went back to scanning the building, searching for a way inside. The brewery was a skeletal husk of what it once was, its wooden walls rotting, windows boarded up, and doors chained shut. But he knew the place wasn't as empty as it seemed. There had to be a way inside. Then, something caught Edgar's eye. Near the back of the building, where discarded barrels and broken crates lay in a haphazard pile, the ground looked unnatural. The dirt was uneven, the grass too sparse. A large stone slab jutted slightly out of the ground, as if someone had recently moved it. Edgar motioned to Caleb.
There. Help me with this.
Together they crouched and dug their fingers into the edges of the stone. It was heavier than it looked.
Members are already ahead in the story. Join now to watch the next episodes early.
Aside, revealing a wooden hatch beneath it. Caleb smirked.
Now that's more like it.
Edgar reached for the iron handle and pulled. The hatch creaked open, releasing a rush of stale air from below. A narrow, winding staircase of stone descended into darkness. From deep within, the faint murmur of voices drifted up to meet them.
Just like the beggar said,
Caleb murmured.
the fermentation cellars.
Edgar nodded. Without hesitation, he drew his dagger and stepped onto the first stair, vanishing into the shadows. Caleb followed close behind, easing the hatch shut above them before descending into the depths of the hollow. The narrow stone steps carried Edgar and Caleb deeper underground. A faint flickering light illuminated the path as they reached the bottom, stepping into a tunnel lined with wooden beams. Voices echoed ahead. They were close. Edgar motioned for Caleb to stay silent as they pressed forward, their footsteps barely making a sound on the uneven stone floor. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber, far larger than Edgar had anticipated. It was not a mere hideout. It was an entire criminal operation.
This is far bigger than they
At a long
expected.
wooden table near the entrance, scribes hunched over parchment, dipping quills into pots of ink as they carefully forged documents. Passports, travel permits, and noble seals were being meticulously copied with expert precision. To their left, tailors worked swiftly, trimming and sewing garments of all styles, peasant rags, merchants' cloaks, even the fine embroidered coats of nobility. A woman held up a powdered wig, adjusting it on a mannequin's head, while a man fitted another with a false beard. Further in, a cluster of criminals waited impatiently by a heavy iron gate. Some paced, some murmured amongst themselves, their faces shadowed beneath the brims of hats or the folds of cloaks. These were fugitives, waiting for their chance to escape Lockwood under false identities. Caleb let out a low whistle.
Holy hell.
Edgar's jaw tightened. How has something like this been operating right under our noses? However, their moment of quiet observation didn't last long. A voice rang out above the hum of the underground operation.
Wait, who the hell are they?
Heads snapped toward Edgar and Caleb. A man near the forger's table scrambled to his feet, knocking over an inkwell that bled black across a half-finished document. A tailor dropped a bundle of clothes, her eyes wide with alarm. The men waiting by the iron gate tensed, their hands creeping toward hidden weapons. Edgar didn't hesitate. He shoved Caleb forward.
Move!
The chamber erupted into chaos. A scribe lunged for the stack of forged papers, attempting to burn them before they could be seized. A burly smuggler overturned a work table, sending documents and tools flying, blocking Edgar and Caleb's path. From the corner, a man yanked a pistol from his coat and fired. The shot went wide, shattering a lantern and plunging part of the room into deeper shadow. Edgar ducked, drawing his sword in one fluid motion, while Caleb lunged for the nearest attacker, tackling him to the ground before he could unsheathe the knife.
Don't let them leave.
The fight was on.
Now, there's no turning back.
The moment the shot rang out and the shout echoed through the chamber, all hell broke loose.
Get out!
Don't let them catch you.
Run!
Criminals scrambled in every direction, some ducking into tunnels, others pushing past the tailors and forgers in a desperate bid to flee.
You're not getting to us.
Edgar barely had time to react before a heavy-set thug lunged at him, swinging a rusted crowbar. He ducked just in time, feeling the rush of air as the weapon missed his head by inches.
Please, like you could take me down that easily.
Edgar growled as he rammed the hilt of his sword into the man's stomach, sending him staggering back with a choked gasp. Edgar smirked proudly.
Now that's more like it.
To his left, Caleb was locked in a struggle with another assailant, dodging wild punches as he tried to gain the upper hand.
Edgar, we're getting swarmed here.
Caleb shouted, catching his attacker's wrist and twisting it sharply. A sickening crack followed, and the man let out a strangled cry, crumpling to the ground.
Then fight harder!
Edgar snapped, slashing at another man who tried to barrel into him. A burly smuggler, his face half hidden by a scarf, grabbed a crate and heaved it toward Edgar.
Take this!
Edgar pivoted, narrowly dodging the heavy box as it shattered against the stone floor, scattering stolen goods.
You bastards are ruining everything!
The smuggler bellowed. Edgar didn't waste a breath responding. He drove his fist into the smuggler's jaw, sending him toppling backward into a pile of overturned furniture. The hollow crumbled into the sound of shouts, bodies colliding, and the hurried scuffling of boots. Men pushed toward the tunnels, shoving past one another in their desperation to escape.
They're scattering!
Caleb called out, elbowing a man in the ribs before kneeing him in the stomach.
They're all gonna get away!
Edgar clenched his jaw. If the criminals slipped away, they would vanish like ghosts into the red light district. They would have no chance of catching them. But right now, that was the least of Edgar's concerns. After all, he didn't come here to fight an entire den of criminals. He was here for one reason, and one reason alone: to find Kate. Edgar reached out, snatching a fleeing scribe by the collar. He slammed the tiny man against a wooden pillar.
Where the hell is Kate Barrett?
This is what he came for. The truth.
I don't know, the scribe wheezed. I just write the damn papers.
Edgar shoved him aside, just as another brute charged at him. He sidestepped, catching the man by the arm and using his own momentum to throw him into a table. The table collapsed beneath the force, sending bottles and ink pots crashing to the floor. Women who were trying to gather their documents screeched, dispersing into the shadows as the brute groaned out in pain. Caleb landed a solid punch to another attacker's temple, watching the man slump to the ground with a pained moan.
Edgar, we have to do something here. This is turning into a damn free-for-all.
Edgar scanned the room, eyes darting toward the back tunnels.
We're not leaving without answers.
Edgar knew Caleb was right. They needed to end this. Now. Just then, his gaze fell on a flickering lantern on a nearby table. Without hesitation, Edgar seized the lantern, and with a mighty heave, he hurled it into the center of the room. The glass shattered upon impact, and in an instant, flames burst to life, licking hungrily at spilled ink and discarded parchment. The hollow froze. All eyes snapped to the inferno, where the Duke stood seemingly in the center of its glow, his sword gleaming in the flickering firelight.
Do I have your attention now?
Edgar bellowed, his voice echoing through the air. He was met with nothing but the sound of crackling flames.
That's better. Listen here, you bastards. I am not here for you. I am here for Kate Barrett. Where is she?
Muttered curses rippled through the crowd. Some criminals clutched their weapons tighter. Others shifted toward the exits, torn between fight and flight. But Edgar's grip tightened on his sword, his very presence daring them to challenge him.
You lot are desperate to escape Lockwood, aren't you?
Edgar continued, his voice steady despite the tension.
If you answer my question, I'll leave this place standing. If not...
He held up his sword, the flames reflecting ominously on its surface.
Then I suggest you start praying I don't bury you here.
The threat didn't fall on deaf ears. A few cowards immediately backed toward the exits. Others remained frozen in place, waiting, watching.
Well?
Edgar asked when he didn't receive a response. Then, from the corner, a man near the forger's table swallowed hard. He stumbled forward.
She ain't here, sir.
Edgar's gaze immediately snapped toward the speaker.
Then where is she?
The man hesitated. I don't...
Edgar slammed his sword into the wooden table with a deafening crack. The entire room flinched.
Where is she?
A woman, clutching the edges of her coat, swallowed audibly.
They left
She stammered.
days ago. Her and the masked man.
Edgar's blood turned ice cold.
The masked man.
The one who had helped Kate secure the poison for Alessandra in the first place. Slowly, deliberately, Edgar advanced toward the woman, each step heavy with unspoken menace.
And who is this masked man?
The woman's eyes darted to the exit as if contemplating an escape. But there was no running from the Duke of Lockwood. Not now, not ever.
Was my question unclear?
Edgar asked again, his eyes locking on the woman.
Who is the masked man? Who is the masked man?
Edgar leaned in closer to the woman, the fire crackling behind him. All of the criminals watched on in fear. One thing was clear. The Duke wasn't leaving until he had answers. The woman before Edgar blinked, her eyes darting to the ground so that she wouldn't have to meet the Duke's scrutinizing gaze. I don't know. Edgar forcibly grabbed her chin, forcing her to look him in the eye.
You don't know?
He repeated. The woman let
And
out
now,
a shaky breath.
the real
stench
enemy
of
is starting
cheap
to
ale
reveal
wafting
itself.
into Edgar's nostrils. He grimaced.
Or are you just refusing to tell me?
A ragged man stepped forward from the gathering crowd, his limp exaggerated by his desperation. His eyes shone with panic, darting between Edgar and the woman in his grasp.
Let her go.
His hands trembled at his sides.
Take me instead, Duke. Just let her go.
Edgar did not move. Instead, he gripped the woman's chin even tighter.
I'll only let go if you have answers.
The man swallowed hard, knowing the Duke wouldn't like what he had to say.
No one has answers about the masked man. Please, I swear it. No one knows who he really is. He's just called the debt collector. Please, Duke,
He sputtered.
let her go.
A man of his word, Edgar shoved the woman aside. She collapsed onto the floor, gasping, rubbing her sore jaw as she scrambled backward. Edgar took a slow, deliberate step forward, addressing the rest of the room as the fire cast sinister shadows over his face.
Is what this man claims true? Does no one know this masked man?
The weight of his voice settled over them like a noose tightening around their throats. A few cowards nodded rapidly, eager to remove themselves from Edgar's scrutiny. Others remained rigid, their silence a testament to their fear, not only of Edgar, but of the masked man, too. Then, a burly brute with a swollen, bloodied nose let out a humorless chuckle.
All we know is that he ain't a man to be trifled with.
He spat onto the floor, his lip curling.
Last we seen of him, he got down that merchant in cold blood. Didn't hesitate. Just left the crazy old loon in the gutter like a dog. The merchant?
Edgar asked.
What'd he sell?
The brute wiped his nose.
What didn't he sell? Everything from sex to poison, though I thinks the poison was more pleasant than the sex.
Edgar's jaw ticked as he glanced at Caleb. They were both thinking the same thing. This was the same man Alfred had uncovered. The same man who had helped Kate poison Alessandra. Caleb cleared his throat, walking past the flames toward Edgar's side.
And he left, you say? Where to?
Hesitation rippled through the gathered criminals.
It was the kind of hesitation that spoke volumes. They knew something. They just feared the consequences of sharing it. Edgar's patience snapped. He stepped forward in a flash, gripping the brute's collar and yanking him close. The man barely had time to react before Edgar slammed him against a wooden pillar, rattling the entire brewery.
Where is he?
Edgar growled. The brute gasped, the air knocked from his lungs. His eyes darted frantically around the room, but no one stepped forward to help him.
I don't know exactly.
He wheezed.
He was leaving Lockwood. That's all we heard.
Edgar narrowed his eyes, his grip tightening for just a moment longer before shoving the man away. The brute collapsed to his knees, coughing and clutching his ribs.
Damn it. If they are already gone, they could be anywhere by now,
Edgar thought.
And the longer I waste here, the further away they get.
He turned sharply to the rest of the room, scanning their faces for a single flicker of hesitation, one sign of withheld information. He knew this type, the ones who thrived in the filth of Lockwood's underbelly. They weren't brave, not really. They only survived because they knew when to run and when to cower. Right now, they were choosing silence. Before he could speak, the woman from before let out a shaky breath.
He's protected, you know.
Edgar's gaze snapped back to her.
By who?
She swallowed hard, her fingers curling into the frayed edges of her coat.
By those who run the red light district. The ones who pull the strings from the shadows.
Murmurs filled the room, barely more than a whisper. A few of the gathered criminals shifted uneasily, casting wary glances toward one another. Edgar let his silence press down on them, forcing the woman to continue.
Most people fear him,
she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper.
Or they owe him something, and if they don't, they know better than to cross him.
Edgar's jaw tensed.
Meaning?
A man standing near the back, an older smuggler with sunken eyes, finally spoke.
Meaning he's got protection in places even you wouldn't expect, Duke.
Edgar stiffened. That was a dangerous claim.
If you're looking for him,
the woman warned,
you best not do it here. You won't find out much, not from anyone who's willing to stay alive.
A heavy silence followed. Edgar let the quiet stretch on, the fire still crackling in the center of the room, casting eerie shadows across the hollow. No one moved. No one dared. Then, with an almost lazy motion, Edgar lifted his sword again and pointed it at the smuggler.
Where would I start looking?
The man visibly paled. He licked his lips, shifting his weight.
I don't know exactly,
he stammered.
But if he's truly gone, then you won't find him in the usual places.
Edgar exchanged a glance with Caleb. That was enough. For now. Without another word, Edgar turned sharply on his heel, making his way toward the exit. Behind him, the room exhaled, as if they had all been holding their breath. Edgar! Caleb called after him as Edgar turned on his heel, striding toward the exit. Where the hell are you going? Edgar didn't answer at first. He hated walking away. He hated the fact that his prey had slipped through his fingers once again.
You heard them all,
he said finally, his voice tight.
Kate isn't here.
Caleb jogged after him, grabbing his arm. So that's it? We just leave? He gestured to the chaos that was the hollow. Look at this place. The criminals are scattering around this place like sewer rats. We're standing in a breeding ground for crime. We should dismantle this place here and now. Edgar stopped, staring out at the ruin of it all. It was tempting, the thought of tearing this place to the ground, making an example of them all. But he wasn't blind. They outnumber us, Edgar said, his voice low enough for only Caleb to hear. We are two men in a den of thieves, and even if we cut them down one by one, we don't know how deep their roots go, how well connected this place is. Caleb huffed, shaking his head. So we just let them keep operating? This is Lockmuir's rot, Edgar. You're really gonna turn your back on it? Edgar turned to face him, his jaw set. You think I don't want to burn this place to the ground? His fingers twitched at his side, aching to draw his sword again. But he forced himself to stay still. I thought I knew the ins and outs of this city better than any other man within it. But now I see that isn't true. There are forces in the red light district beyond even my reach. This isn't just petty crime. It's a network.
And now, he realizes that...
And we don't know who's truly pulling the strings. Caleb exhaled sharply, running a hand down his face. So, what do? We leave, Edgar commanded. They gave us the answers we needed. And if we linger beyond our welcome, we risk word of our presence spreading. Besides, the longer we stay, the more time we give Kate and this masked demon to cover their tracks. He turned back toward the door, his expression unreadable. Caleb sighed. He knew that Edgar was right, but it still felt wrong to just walk away. He turned back toward the hollow, stealing one last glance at the rot before he made his escape. As Edgar and Caleb emerged from the depths of the hollow, the world outside had already begun to change. Thanks to the setting sun, the once muted colors of the red light district were now cast in deep oranges and purples. Shadows stretched long and eerie over the cobblestone streets, and a damp chill clung to the air. The two men walked in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Caleb's jaw was set, his fingers flexing like he was ready to throw another punch at someone, anyone. Edgar, though outwardly composed, felt the fire of rage smoldering beneath his skin. They had come for answers and left with only more questions. If Kate was with this masked man, what would that mean for Edgar and Alessandra? Had Kate hired him? Did he take her? Or did Kate plan to kill him too? As they neared the main street, a group of drunken men stumbled out of a brothel, nearly colliding with Caleb. One of them blinked, recognition sparking in his ale-hazed eyes. Duke Collins? He slurred, swaying slightly. What's a highborn like you doing in a gutter like this? Before Caleb could react, Edgar grabbed his shoulder, shaking his head. Keep walking, he muttered under his breath. Caleb exhaled sharply, but obeyed, though his fists clenched at his sides. They maneuvered through the filth-ridden streets, past prostitutes calling out to them, past gamblers shouting over lost coin, past cloaked figures huddled in alleyways. Once they reached the edge of the red light district, Edgar turned to Caleb, his eyes darkening. We will finish this, Caleb, he murmured, but not tonight. Edgar cast one last glance over his shoulder. The red light district stretched before him like a festering wound, pulsing with corruption, feeding off the desperate and the damned. His lips curled into a thin, grim line. One day I will return.
And when he does,
I do,
nothing will be left
the red
standing.
light district will burn.
The Duke has uncovered the truth, and now he's ready to burn it all down. Do you think he will destroy the Underworld, or uncover something even bigger behind it? Join now for early access to the next episodes. And don't forget to like and subscribe.